Divine Chaos, which is a very large and long-standing troupe here in the Phoenix area. You probably have seen them in some festivals if you've been out. And so what we're going to talk today is about the management and the day-to-day of having a large troupe. Because Shannon, you definitely know all about this. So tell us, how large is Divine Chaos now?
Divine Chaos, the actual professional troupe, has 11 members, and our student troupe has 6 members, and then we have 3 remote members throughout the world who have left under really good terms but moved away for jobs and family, and we keep in contact with them and we keep our sisterhood with them too. So we're at about 20 total, so it's a really large group.
Yeah, so in a group like that, you have a lot of, everyone has to be accountable. There's a lot of people to be accountable for the quality level of what you guys are known for on stage. So how do you handle like all of those logistics?
I think the first thing with a big group like that is setting your expectations first, and letting the troupe member decide if that's something that they can take on or if they can't. I think the hardest thing in a troupe and where conflict begins is when somebody feels like you're letting them down or they've let you down because they can't meet an expectation, and because most of us all have regular jobs. Teachers or physicians, or we even have NASA scientists in Divine Chaos. And when life throws that curveball at you and you're depending on one another, then that's when things can get really sticky. So first things first is expectations, and that goes as far as they're required to always have continuous learning. They must have 3 hours of classes a week. That's accounted for to keep their dance practices going, but then they also have our rehearsals, which we rehearse 3 to 4 hours a week as well. And the student troupe has less obligation, but each member chooses the level at which they want to be at. So it's not me saying, you must do this. It's, if I want to be in this position, I will hold myself accountable and I will assess myself and I will push myself to be at this level. So the expectations are huge, just so that nobody has hard feelings like, well, I thought you were going to do this. Or you signed up to do this gig. It's always, it's hard when somebody's like, oh, no, I can't do it. And then always maintaining professionalism and making sure your gigs are fulfilled and that the caliber of dance that you want is there, the practice is there. As the troupe director, that's something that I hold at the forefront at all times. You have to be ready to go. But then, it's 17 women who have children or these demanding careers, and they're beautiful dancers, but it is constantly communication. So each practice, we have an actual meeting. So at the beginning of our 4-hour practice, we have an hour meeting where I actually publish an agenda and talk about the topics that we are going to go over. And then we always start every single meeting with positives, like what's going on with each person around the circle and things that they want to share with the troupe that are going really well. And then we get into the logistics of upcoming gigs, class participation, attendance. Phoenix Rising Festival is coming up, so that requires more planning. And to be honest, a lot of what I put in place is what I learned from you and Mecta when you were president. And that's why I do the meetings. We have an actual secretary who takes the notes, and we publish them every week, so it doesn't turn into miscommunications of, well, she said this, but she said this, but she said this. And it's like, no, please reference the notes, because the notes lay everything out. Something as simple as a costume or gig time, show up, who's doing what gig, what music is going to be. They're all in the notes, and they're all kept online so that everybody can access them at all times. So I'm not bombarded by 17 girls going, Shannon, what's the costume for Friday? And I'm not like, why didn't you, so trying to take out the miscommunications. And I think for any and all troupes, it is the easiest thing that can go wrong and will go wrong. And so some of the things also that we do to facilitate communications, I have all the girls take love language quizzes. I know it's silly, but I have them do love language quizzes so that maybe I'm communicating in a way that they're not receiving, or they're communicating in a way that I'm not receiving. Just the communication is really, truly the hardest part about having a big troop, and I think having a troop in general. Making sure that you're clear, that there's no other intentions behind it, like just being very direct and forward. And my girls have a hard time sometimes with me because I am super direct and forward. 10 years in the Army kind of does that. I'm a school teacher and I'm like, hey, but it doesn't mean that I don't care and I don't love them. And so we do the love languages quiz like pretty regularly, like once a year. Like we retake it and we share our results. We do personality ones as well. Like
That's so interesting.
you kind of have to, the way that I approach it, not that they're not my truest friends and my dance sisters, but also like I look at it as a business. And if I was managing people, I want to know about my employees. I want to know their strengths. I want to know their weaknesses. I want to know if there is a way that I can communicate better with them, because you and I both know that the buck stops with me.
Yeah.
And you have to lead by example at all times. And so I figure if I can communicate as clear as possible, and then if I perceive any miscommunications, I can swat those away. Because even though people have the best intentions, sometimes fear of change will cause like that ruckus of gossiping. Not that they're trying to, but like, oh my gosh, what's going on with this? Oh my gosh. And then you have to go, no, like stop. No, like change is good. Like nobody's getting left behind. Like we're all in this together.
Right.
The other thing is that we do have conversations often about giving the benefit of the doubt. And knowing that when you walk into practice, that you literally have to take your outside life and leave it at the door. And then you can pick it right back up, when you walk out the door, but just giving one another the benefit of the doubt, because you could have a horrible day and somebody flips their hair the wrong way and you're like, oh my gosh, you did that just to upset me. It's like, no, they just flipped their hair. They have no idea what's going on with you. Right. And so I've talked to the girls several times and I said, I really just want to be a dance director. I don't want to be a behavior director.
It's really tough when you get that many people, especially that many women in one place. I mean, not to disparage our own gender, but groups of women tend to have special difficulties in things like that. Now, one of the things I've always found remarkable about your troupe, other than your togetherness on stage, is the sense of family and community that you have been able to build with your group. I mean, you girls are like all in and together, like you got each other's backs, and it's such an awesome thing to see. And I know that it's not just from the outside, because I know you and I know a lot of your girls too, that's really just the way it is. So what do you do, like, how have you been able to build that kind of feeling of togetherness with your troupe?
Just the community. We do special things kind of every quarter or month where we always have a DC Friendsgiving. So outside of our family, we have Thanksgiving together, and we plan it a year in advance. Like, here's the date for DC Friendsgiving. It's never on Thanksgiving, but like the Saturday prior. And we say it's our time to be thankful for one another. The other thing that we always do is celebrate Christmas together. But then outside of that is we even, in our calendars, we have a huge DC calendar that's on Google that everybody has access to, and we share. And we go through once a month and we schedule a day for a staycation or sewing together, or hey, we're all going to go swimming. It's not that it's mandatory, but it's kind of like troop time is needed. Like, we have to bond outside of these walls, because when you reach the professional level, sometimes your practice is not fun.
Yes.
It is not that, like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited. Like, it's, no, your arms are incorrect. We don't match. Timing is off. Run it again. This is not how we like it. And that can become stressful, but if your foundation is there of, we want the best product, we're all in this together, I can only dance as strong as the girl that is next to me. So we spend a lot of time outside of dance practice or rehearsals or gigs on purpose.
It's almost like a relationship bank, you know,
Yes.
you could, because working together and having to correct each other and things like that can sometimes be like a withdrawal. So, you know, having to build in positively into that relationship so that you have you know, you've got the resources there to say, that was wrong, we have to do that again. So,
some things that we also do, then you're gonna laugh. We do something that's called Nomeo, and it's a garden gnome. And so, just from your garden. So we got a gnome, and he had nothing on him. And so we decided that every Sunday, Nomeo would be passed around. Nomeo, we would identify one person in the troupe at that specific time that we felt grateful for, or we appreciated, and we verbalized it. And so when we gave Nomeo to that girl, Nomeo then, for that week, stays with that girl, but she's required to decorate him. I know it's silly. She's required to decorate him. So Nomeo went from just a regular garden gnome to having a sword and double fans and skirt, and he got blinged out, and he had a little DC tattoo, and like he even got his own special home and house. Like each week, each girl would decorate this little gnome, like zills, bindies, bras, like.
oh, that's crazy.
And so we're all laughing, but then we're like, okay, I'm choosing to give Nomeo to this person.
Oh, that's funny.
So, and we would say why, and then we had to retire Nomeo because he was so glammed out. We had nothing more that we could add. Like, we're like, I think if we build him another house, we can, you know. So we retired Nomeo. So now what we are passing around is the DC Journal. So we still select a girl. Who, if it was mine, and I would say, Mahin, you are the person that inspired me this week. I'm thankful for your friendship and how you always have my, you know, my best interests at heart. And thank you when you see that I have a rough day that you offer me a hug. And so we give the journal to that person, but then in it is a letter from each girl to the girl that they're writing it to.
Oh, nice.
So you can start at the beginning of the journal and see what each girl has said to each girl, so it's public. And then one of our troupe members works for a book bindery, and so she is going to, when it's complete, she's going to make all of us a book of everything that we love about one another and that we are thankful for. So, and that did come from trying to understand people's love languages, because what you would never expect is mine is words of affirmation. So, and others are physical touch, and I would have never thought that. So I think it's to speak to that person and then just to say, I'm thankful because whether people believe it or not, it's like you're choosing to do this. You're choosing to spend hours away from your family. You're choosing to spend hours away from home when you travel, and to put yourself under a microscope, to put yourself out there to the world where you might not be received well, or you are received well, and but you're choosing to do it because you love it, and because you love it, you have so many emotions attached to it, so you can't be 100% business.
It's true.
You can't. And I would love to be like, this is a business. It's like, yeah, we are. Absolutely, we are. But we're also a business of women that love this art form, and so I think that always has to be accounted for from me. And so those are just some of the things that we do, and you know, we do make time to spend with one another. We go to the ballet, to the symphony, to events as often as we can together. Like we are constantly reaching out and saying, hey, there's this event, who wants to go? And as you've probably seen, DC goes out in mass.
Yes, they do.
To the ballet. Like, you know, like, hey, we're all here at the ballet.
Yeah. We've run into each other there before, yes.
So, but it's just trying, like, not to confuse it, but it's, we don't want to go to a bar, you know, or you know, sit there and drink and go clubbing. Like, we do go dancing, but we go dancing, like, and it's one of the best times ever, but it's like we want to do it in a healthy, productive way, and not a self-destructive way. And whenever we have birthdays, we're all together, families included. Like, we know one another's families, we know one another's children, and it just really counts because I have 3 children, And if my troop members didn't know about my children, then they couldn't know about me. And they couldn't know the sacrifice that I make to make time for them. So,
Right.
and how I show my love in my love language is acts of service. So it makes sense.
That makes complete sense knowing you. So with a large group of that size, you're very demanding with them about quality, and you built that whole solid, just person-to-person relationships, and you can be demanding. I know we've talked before about skills testing. So how do you what are the mechanics that you put in place to make sure that it's fair and openly communicated the way that you're going to assess skills for the group?
I can probably start at a lower level so that it makes a little bit more sense. To even be invited into the student troop, you had to take all classes. So you have to know the vocabulary. And we have what's called a level system in place. So we have level 1 to 4. 4 is the highest level that you can be. That is that you travel out of state, you perform with the professional troupe. You don't have any limitations in your performance opportunities, paid gigs, etc. But each level is a tiered system of accountability and responsibility for the dancer. I did not want to be responsible for my dancers' growth 100%. I wanted to be able to guide and critique and offer constructive criticism, but I did not want the responsibility to remain on me to be like, you're a level 3. I want them to go, I'm meeting this criteria. I want them to assess themselves. Like, metacognition and awareness is so much more valuable and important than me saying you're not doing this correctly. So when we have levels assessments twice a year, and each girl is required to assess herself first. And then that girl sits with Claire, the other director, and I, and we ask them, okay, so how did you assess yourself? And that dancer then assesses herself based off of the level system. I feel that I am a level 3 in skirt dancing because, and then they quantified it. And then the other director, Claire, and I say, okay, well, we feel that you're at this level, and we always try to sandwich it. This is something that you do amazingly well. This is something we'd like you to improve. And then this is, something that we'd love to continue seeing you do. And it's interesting because the dancers usually rate themselves lower than we do. Because you're your own worst critic, right? So we go through this levels assessment, one, so that the dancers had to look at their own dance. And it's not just that. Like, I always feel upset when people think that I just drop the hammer and I'm just a taskmaster. And it's like, no, I want them to grow for them. I want to dance next to my peer, my sister. I don't want to be like, you're not doing that right. I want them to be the best dancers that they can be and pursue the specifics that they love. So one of my members loves Indian fusion and Bollywood, and she excels at it. But then we still have all the other areas that she's still accountable for and responsible for, and if her levels drop, then it affects the performances that she can do. And we do have to enforce the levels because that is something that people in general, because people are fallible as human beings, is if they see somebody else getting a different treatment or something that is perceived unfair, then the communication's gone, and now you've got conflict.
Yeah, exactly, because that's a really easy way to throw bad feelings and conflict into your community, and that just never goes well.
Right, so if it's laid out, and we do our assessments privately for the benefit of the doubt of that person. Like, nobody wants their flaws to be said publicly, but we do take a great amount of time and effort. So each assessment can take anywhere from an hour to 2 hours.
Wow.
That we schedule out, and we try to go and do like a dinner, or we try to make it a nice experience. So kind of like your major evaluation that you would have at work, and we always want it to end on a positive note. And for that person to feel re-energized and to be like, man, I can't wait to get to the highest tier. Like, I'm gonna push myself to the highest tier I can. But then it's also amazing because somebody might look at their life and go, I've got physician's assistant testing and clinics coming up. For the next 6 months of my life, I'm going to work, 3 days, 30, just straight through, no sleep, I need to back off. And so they can drop themselves a level so that they're not letting us down. When I'm like, hey guys, we got this big gig, we're gonna go to this festival, I can automatically go, okay, well this person has pulled themselves back. So I'm not like, hey, you're not going, come on, like you.
Right, yeah.
And then they don't feel FOMO, fear of missing out. You know, like, I really wanna go with you, and then they have a problem with saying no. And it just takes all that away.
Right.
Which is nice. So the level system works. To even be at a level 1, you had to have done all the vocabulary period. To get to a level 2, that's when how many hours of class or continuing education you are taking. Are you taking all of your Divine Chaos classes to continue to master your skill? Because you're never too amazing to drill.
Of course not.
Right? Like,
yeah.
When I was learning Domba with Heidi Alexander, I took all my series of classes probably 3 or 4 times, and each time learned something new.
Oh yeah.
Each time, same movement, same concept, and that's what I want for them. And so, you know, each level steps it up responsibility-wise, but then it's met with opportunity. And the highest level that we have is a 4. We do have, you know, 2 directors, and we do have, right now we've got 3 assistant directors, and we have them assisting us because the festival is so large, but then also there are so many members, and it's to make sure that information is mainstreamed, that there's, well, I talked to Claire and she said this, well, I talked to Shannon and she said this, nope, it is just consistent all the way across. So there's no misgivings, there's no, but you did this for this girl.
It sounds really is that like the bedrock of what you've got going on is you've made everything super clear, and that everything's out there. So there's no guessing games about anything. When you've got that many people to handle, it's definitely a huge thing. Yeah. And then you really put this big challenge on your group last year. For those of you out there who don't know, Divine Chaos is the organizers and founders and sponsors of the Phoenix Rising Festival. So, and you guys do this whole thing and do all the work for it and don't even perform in it. It's your gift to the community, which is that's part of that really unique mentality that your group has, is that that whole like acts of service. I mean, that is, you guys are doing this whole festival that's as big as any of the other commercial festivals out there, and just that's your thing, and this is what you're too, right?
Yeah.
Too. Wow.
But it all came from you. Seriously, it did, with MECTA, and then you set it up, being president, and then a couple of years later I joined on, and just community, supporting community, being about community, being a public servant. And when DC, because we've been together 10 years, so
right, yeah.
Even when I was in MECTA with you, I wouldn't allow them to perform, because I'm like, I can't perform because my focus is on the community. And sometimes they would perform, but I wouldn't be in it. And then they'd be like, but you're not performing with us. And it's like, no, because my focus is here. So when the festival went away, when MECTA went away, and then unfortunately so many of the major studios started closing in Arizona, we saw this drift in the community, and we were like, we need to fix this. Like, we are the largest troupe. Like, we're sizable. And so we said, how can we serve our community? And we said, let's get them all together in the same spot again. Let's appreciate dance. Let's dance for one another. And if it gets big, it gets big. But that's never been a priority for us.
Right.
We wanted to provide everybody with just the same idea that you had, accessible education, opportunity to perform, opportunity to learn your history about your community.
I think there was really a MECTA value in that overall. I mean, just the whole country. I mean, that was one of the things that I know, at least for me, to bring MECTA to Arizona and have a chapter here, and it was that. I mean, that was MECTA's ideals, right. and I felt like there was something that we were missing here, and it's nice to see that going on. Even if it is a once-a-year festival, it still brings that to it, and the fact that your group is willing to put so much extra work beyond everything that you ask out of them for your regular things, and all of the things that have to be done for a festival of this size, which are just more than anyone can ever imagine is they haven't done it before from A to Z, you know, all the nuts and bolts. But yeah, it's just such a testament to what you've built in their commitment to each other, and that's why we wanted to talk to you about troop management, because your troop is a really awesome example of not just bringing quality on stage, but bringing and being productive and drama-free behind the scenes, and going beyond that, beyond their own things, to work for the community as well. I mean, that's a pretty big thing. Not something we see a lot of.
Yeah, it's. I remember sitting on this floor actually in January and saying, "Guys, I want to bring back Fall Festival." And they looked at me and they go, they didn't even hesitate. They're like, "All right, let's do it." He said, we have to pay for it ourselves, but they're like, "We got you." They didn't even blink. Like, they're like, "Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it." And that's how they've always been. And I think it's, we definitely have a support system with one another. And what I've seen is with these women, and they're so diverse. I mean, I've got dancers as old as 65, as young as 25, and it doesn't matter. The support system that is in place, and if somebody says, "I have this dream, I think we should do it," everybody goes, "Well, let's do it." And one of the analogies that one of my dancers uses is that we're kind of like a teepee, a tent, that we all kind of lean in, and that if somebody needs to take a break, that's okay, because the other ones just push up stronger. And then if somebody else needs to take a break, well, that's all right, because we're just going to push up stronger and make sure that it always stays there. And that's really how we've gone forward. And most of everybody in DC has said, like, this is a lifelong thing. We have the matching tattoos for it. So we're like, it's a lifelong thing. Like, it's a lifelong friendship. Like, we might not be able to dance, or we might move away from jobs, but this is something that we intend to keep in our lives for a long time.
Well, I want to thank you so much for sharing all of that, because even the people who have much smaller groups, or perhaps groups that maybe aren't quite as smooth functioning or things like that, so much of what you shared about clarity and communication and building the positive relationship beyond just asking for what you were always asking for from people is good stuff for the community. So Shannon, thank you so much for sitting down to talk today. There's a lot of troops out there, big ones, small ones, and the tips that you shared with us regarding clear communication and building that positive relationship that holds up and supports the ability to work hard together and demand a lot of each other is something that I think that any of us who work in either anything down from a duet up to a large project can really benefit from. So thank you for all sharing your expertise. For those of you who don't know much about Divine Chaos or have ever seen them in action, go ahead and check the link in the box down there. We'll link to the YouTube channel so you can see these ladies and their beautiful dancing on stage, and the website as well. You can see Divine Chaos's website. And if you have any comments or questions or anything like that, please do go ahead and put them in the comment box below. Hit like, subscribe, share. And thanks, Shannon. Thanks so much. And you guys have a good week. Bye-bye.